Welcome to another episode of the FGT Show. If you're a pro football fan, this is the place to be for all your latest pro football news and action. If you're an advertiser, you can place an ad on the show by going to footballgametonight.com. One more time, that's footballgametonight.com. And how about Lamar Jackson? I think it's safe to say that the MVP race is pretty much wrapped up. Lamar Jackson is going to be the MVP for this year, and what a year it's been for the Ravens quarterback. This guy is playing at another level right now, and really, to me, the race was kind of coming down to Lamar Jackson and Christian McCaffrey, but you look at what the Ravens did against the 49ers, demolished the 49ers, so because of that head-to-head battle, I have to give an edge to Lamar Jackson, and then you look at what Lamar Jackson did tonight against the Miami Dolphins. So when they beat the 49ers, that was the number one seed in the NFC, and then they absolutely demolish the Dolphins tonight, who are one of the best teams in the AFC. That's why Lamar Jackson is going to be the MVP for this season. So it's just been great work by him. You look at what he did in that game tonight. He was absolutely incredible, distributing the football. And how much has this guy grown as a passer? He doesn't even need to use his legs anymore. I mean, he's getting it done solely with his arm, dissecting teams, reading the defense, taking what the defense gives him, being able to just kind of break down the coverage and know where the weakness is of that specific coverage. Lamar Jackson's done a great job of that all season long. And you look at what happened in the Dolphins game. The Dolphins got out to an early lead, and then Lamar Jackson kind of dug them out of the hole. Did a good job of taking a shot down the field to Rashad Bateman at the start of the game. It was a slant and go to Rashad Bateman. The play came back, but Lamar Jackson basically showed that they can keep up with the Dolphins' high-flying offense. And he comes back after that Rashad Bateman throw, has a nice throw to Zay Flowers, wakes the team up. Rashad Bateman was getting involved a lot early on in this game, did a good job of chipping in. Lamar Jackson has a really nice throw down the right sideline to Odell Beckham Jr. Almost looked like, the best catch Odell Beckham Jr. ever had when he was on the Giants, where he one-handed it. But this one, he's fading away, two-hands it. Another great catch. But it was kind of in the same area of the field, that right side of the field, a vertical throw. Not a lot of room to work with. Had to get both his feet down. Was able to do that to make the catch. It was challenged by Mike McDaniel, and the play ended up standing. Odell Beckham Jr. did get his feet down, did complete the process of the catch before, he went out of bounds, and then maintained process of the catch even after going out of bounds. So great concentration there by Odell Beckham Jr. It was just a great night all around for this Ravens offense. And you look at the fact that, Mark Andrews is injured. So what does Lamar Jackson do? He brings along Isaiah Likely and gets Isaiah Likely up to speed, and basically has a nice throw to Isaiah Likely where Isaiah Likely, has a one-handed catch, turns upfield and scores a nice touchdown. Just kind of threw one hand out at it, took a stab at it, made the catch, turned upfield. Huge play by Isaiah Likely. Lamar Jackson let him, put it out in front of him. Great work by Isaiah Likely on that catch. And then later on in the game, Isaiah Likely kind of blocks, turns it into a crossing route. Lamar Jackson finds Isaiah Likely on a crossing route for another touchdown. 2 touchdowns in this game for Isaiah Likely. It was incredible, This Ravens offense is clicking. A lot of it has to do with Todd Monken and the synergy that he has with Lamar Jackson. Lamar Jackson talked about how Todd Monken actually listens to Lamar Jackson and incorporates the things that he has to say into this Ravens offense. Those two have done a great job of drawing up the game plan, being on the same page, and executing. And then the other big thing for the Ravens is you look at all the weapons they have this year. They go out and get Odell Beckham Jr. They draft Zay Flowers. they did a good job of just adding talent around Lamar Jackson because they knew they had a special player in Lamar Jackson, a guy who was already the MVP in the past. And the Ravens knew last year when, they lost to the Bengals in the playoffs, but Lamar Jackson didn't play in that game, and something stood out. Even though the Ravens lost that game to the Bengals, it was pretty clear that they were a physical football team. They were just missing the weapons around Lamar Jackson, and Lamar Jackson didn't even play in that game. So they knew if Lamar Jackson was healthy, they were going to have a real shot at going on a deep playoff run. Plus, they added Odell Beckham Jr. and Zay Flowers to the mix. That's why we're seeing everything come together for this Ravens offense, and that has uplifted Lamar Jackson to new heights. He's also elevated his play as well, and that's why Lamar Jackson is going to win his second MVP award and have a legitimate shot at winning his first Super Bowl championship. I think the Ravens are more physical than most of these teams that we see them play against. And then you look at the other players that stepped up in this game for them. I thought Justice Hill had a great game. He did a good job of contributing for this Ravens team. The halfback wheel route for a touchdown was big. The kick return was big. He did a good job of getting in where he can fit in, any way that he could chip in and give this Ravens team something. I thought Justice Hill did a great job of that. Then on the defensive side of the ball, how good has Geno Stone been this year? Just made so many plays this year for this Ravens defense. Had another interception in this game against the Dolphins. I mean, he's just racking up interception after interception. Has a knack for reading the quarterback's eyes and sniffing out where these passes are going to go. And then he does a good job of tracking the ball. He's done a great job of that all season long, tracking the ball and then completing the play by making the catch for the interception. Geno Stone, have to tip your hat to him. He stepped up. Roquan Smith had a nice one-handed interception in this game. Roquan Smith with the one-handed interception. Isaiah Likely with the one-handed interception. I mean, these Ravens players on both sides of the ball have hands. I mean, it's not easy to make a one-handed pick in an NFL game. Roquan Smith did it, showing he's not just a run stopper. He can be effective against the pass too. Got to his drop, did a good job of breaking on the pass, and completed the interception. Just a good night all around if you're a Ravens fan, and they really put it to the Miami Dolphins. The Miami Dolphins, I know they didn't have Jalen Waddle, but they look like a deer in the headlights in this game. Tua Tagovailoa came crashing down to earth, just had a tough time dealing with Roquan Smith, Geno Stone, the rest of the Ravens defense who stepped up and put the pressure on Tua Tagovailoa and kept Tyreek Hill in check. I think that's the most important thing when you play this Dolphins team. Whether or not you can contain Tyreek Hill or not, the Ravens showed that they were capable of doing that in this game, which was a huge factor. No Jalen Waddle. You knew Tyreek Hill had to step up, but he didn't. He was kept under wraps for most of the game because of the Ravens pass rush and, because of the Ravens defense against the pass, which had a stellar night. So a complete football team, a team that's going to have a real shot at winning the Super Bowl, a team that nobody wants to face on the AFC side of the bracket, a team that could very well represent the AFC in the Super Bowl, which will be a nightmare for whoever, comes out of the NFC side of the bracket. They don't want to see the Ravens. And then, like I said, Lamar Jackson, his progression as a passer, him throwing the ball more and trusting his arm more, not running as much. I mean, how many times did he run tonight? 4, 5 times? It's a big change from what we've seen in the past where he would just tuck it and run and get as much as he can. Now he's keeping his eyes downfield and finding the guy that gets loose. I think about the Justice Hill route out of the backfield. Lamar Jackson looked through his progressions, didn't see nothing there, dumped it off on a crossing route to Justice Hill out of the backfield. Justice Hill turns upfield, gets something there. That's the difference between the new Lamar Jackson and the old Lamar Jackson, because when he gets through, in the past, when he got through his first or second progression, he would have took off and ran with it. Now he's going to his third option and fourth option. Justice Hill coming out of the backfield, that's third or fourth option. So just great work by Lamar Jackson, throwing the ball vertically better than maybe ever. Right away to Rashad Bateman. I know it comes back, but that's a really nice throw right out in front of Rashad Bateman. Rashad Bateman couldn't complete the catch. It did hit the ground, but a really nice throw for Lamar Jackson. The throw to Zay Flowers on, I think it was like a deep comeback route. Nice throw. The throw to Odell Beckham Jr. down the right sideline with no room to work with, where Odell Beckham Jr. keeps his feet in bounds. That's a hell of a throw by Lamar Jackson. Not a lot of room to work with there, and he kept the ball away from the defender, put it where his receiver could get it, put it where the receiver had enough room there where he could keep both his feet in bounds. Odell Beckham Jr. obviously is going to make that catch. He's made a name for himself off making that catch right there, and he's been another nice addition for this Ravens offense, who seems to be firing on all cylinders right now. I mean, Isaiah Likely, 2 touchdowns in this game. Lamar Jackson is hitting him, get him involved a little bit here to Odell Beckham Jr., a little bit there to Zay Flowers. Isaiah Likely work in the middle of the field. Justice Hill on a halfback wheel route. Justice Hill leaking out of the backfield on a crossing route. I mean, they're spreading the football all over the field, and everybody's getting involved. And Lamar Jackson is just in the zone, dialing it up, getting the ball out to his playmakers, letting them use their playmaking abilities to create plays after the catch, like we saw in the Zay Flowers touchdown where he had 2 defenders right by him, makes the first guy miss, makes the second guy miss, off to the races for a touchdown. Zay Flowers, can't say enough good things about him and what he's meant to this offense. It's been a spark plug for the Ravens. Zay Flowers is a little bit undersized, but he brings a lot of speed to the table. And, a lot of these other receivers, they can make that catch down the field, but they're not making those 2 guys miss. And when it's still a close game, you need those big plays to gain momentum, to feed off that energy and separate yourself from your opponent. That's what Zay Flowers was able to do when he took that catch and went off to the races, made those 2 Dolphins defenders miss, and, pumped some life into this Ravens team. I can't say enough about how big that was for this Ravens offense. I mean, Zay Flowers, some guys get tackled after that big catch and maybe they don't score a touchdown. They have to settle for a field goal. And, the Dolphins defense is a little amped up about stopping them. Sure, they gave up a big play, but at least they held them to 3, and they have something to be upbeat about. But when Zay Flowers breaks those 2 tackles and, goes off to the races, it's so deflating for the Dolphins. It's so deflating for, those 2 defensive backs that whiffed on those tackles, because it's like not only did he get one guy, he got both of us. He got us both and then scored a touchdown. So you're hanging your head a little bit. How did he beat both of us? How did he make both of us miss? And that's just Zay Flowers going all the way back to Boston College. He's always been electric. He's always been an elusive player who can do damage in the open field. That's what we saw tonight from Zay Flowers in this football game. And go back to that game last year against the Dolphins. Lamar Jackson took over. The Ravens are winning that game, but out of nowhere, late in the game, the Dolphins come storming back, and the Dolphins actually win the game against the Ravens. And Lamar Jackson's frustrated because he played such a great game. It was really the defense that had a collapse and let the Dolphins back into the game, where the Dolphins were able to win the game. That was not the case tonight. Lamar Jackson kept his foot on the gas pedal. The Ravens offense were explosive. They were running the football downhill. They were getting it done in every phase of the game, not only on the offense, but on the defensive side of the ball too, on special teams with the Justice Hill kick return. So it was a completely different game from last year. You know, it was almost like the start that the Ravens had last year, minus the claps, and it was actually the exact opposite, where they just kept pouring it on. Because last year against the Dolphins, the Ravens started off really hot, and then they had the collapse. Well, this year, you know, the Dolphins score first, but the Ravens started hot too. You know, Lamar Jackson was dealing early on, and they were able to just keep pouring it on to the point where the Dolphins started to collapse because they were just taking so many haymakers in this game from this Ravens offense. There was no stopping them. They were getting it done on defense too, you know, causing problems for Tua Tagovailoa, and it was the complete opposite game is what the Dolphins were hoping for last year, but weren't quite able to do because they were a little bit older on offense. They didn't have things figured out. Remember, they had Greg Roman on offense, so Greg Roman, you know, played a lot of tight formations, and they weren't as explosive on the offensive side of the ball because of those tight formations. They weren't as explosive on the offensive side of the ball because of the personnel, not having Odell Beckham Jr. and Zay Flowers. So you add in all those factors, you know, Todd Monken being there, Zay Flowers, Odell Beckham Jr., and despite the fact that Mark Andrews is not, you know, playing, this team is still really good. Isaiah Likely steps up. He's more confident than he's ever been. I think that's big for this Ravens team. And, you know, when Mark Andrews eventually comes back, they're going to be really dangerous. Think about the 2 tight end sets they could run. Think about all those years the Patriots ran the 2 tight end sets with Rob Gronkowski and Aaron Hernandez, or Rob Gronkowski and Scott Chandler. Those were deadly formations just because when you run 4 verticals, you know, those 2 verticals with the 2 tight ends make it really tough for the linebackers and the secondary to stop because one guy is usually almost always open. So when the Ravens get that going with, you know, Mark Andrews and Isaiah Likely, that just adds another wrinkle to this offense. I think that can be big for them. You know, there's no point in putting Isaiah Likely on the bench and just letting Mark Andrews do everything. You got to find packages that can get both those guys on the field. And yeah, that might take one of the receivers off the field, but they're in spread formation so much now that you can really add another wrinkle to this offense by putting in a 2 tight end package and taking advantage of the skill set of Mark Andrews and Isaiah Likely. And yeah, you still have 2 wide receivers out wide, but that's something they have to tap into just because it's going to give even more opportunities in the passing game for Lamar Jackson. It's going to be tough to stop. You know, Isaiah Likely is on fire right now. The last thing you want to do is ever put him on the bench and, you know, not taking advantage of his confidence in the progress he's made. You know, eventually when Mark Andrews does come back, you gotta find a way to put together some packages to make sure both those guys are involved. Yeah, you got to take care of the big 3 at wide receiver being Zay Flowers, Rashad Bateman, and Odell Beckham Jr. But I think, you know, on some plays you can take one of those guys off the field and run the 2 tight end sets just because we've seen how effective it's been in the past with those Patriots teams. And, you know, it's a copycat league. If something works, it works for a reason because it's tough to defend. And the Ravens have the perfect personnel with Mark Andrews and Isaiah Likely to take advantage of that. So Lamar Jackson is the MVP. You can take that to the bank. It's a done deal. He's going to win the MVP. He's the most deserving. I think the Ravens are the best team. I think the Ravens are the most convincing team right now. They are rolling with a ton of momentum. You know, one more game left, and then the playoffs, everything is firing on all cylinders. Lamar Jackson is going to win his 2nd MVP award. He got the help he needed around him, and then he made the most of it. He's also made huge strides individually, you know, as a passer. He's more confident as ever. He's more confident than ever as well. So you have all these Ravens players that are peaking at the right time. Lamar Jackson, 2nd MVP. Isaiah Likely, Zay Flowers, Rashad Bateman was great in this game tonight. Really did a good job of making himself available for Lamar Jackson. Odell Beckham Jr. seems to be finding his stride in this offense. There's a lot of weapons, and they're going to have a chance at another Super Bowl. Nobody wants to play this Ravens team. And like I said, they're going to have a real shot at the Super Bowl, the number one seed in the AFC, the number one team in the NFL. It's the Ravens, and nobody wants to play them. They're going to have home field advantage too, so you're going to have to go into Baltimore and try to beat this team with Lamar Jackson really dialed in. It's going to be tough. You have to believe that the Ravens are the favorite heading into the playoffs. One more week left, but really the playoffs right around the corner. It's all Lamar Jackson and the Ravens right now. They're going to be tough to stop. I'm John Kuzma. Thanks for listening to the Football Game Tonight show. If you're an advertiser and you want to place an ad on the show, you can go to www.footballgametonight.com. No hyphens, just footballgametonight.com. And thank you guys so much for tuning in. Take care.